Hello everyone, and welcome to World of Darkness news. After a one little week of a break, during which your fellow minister was recuperating from some blood curse that was probably put on me by those Dame Tremere, or I'm not really sure. Maybe some werewolves were involved in that. But I am back, and today we have already accumulated a plenty of news from the past 2 weeks to share with you. So I will be very happy to share all of those with you today, especially as we are exactly 1 week away from the release of Werewolf the Apocalypse Earthblood. And this is big. Of course, we did have a very first Werewolf the Apocalypse video game release already, so that was Heart in the Forest. But Earthblood is a game that is being awaited by many of you, and I am very much curious to know what you will think about it. And in the meantime, hello to everyone in the chat, hello to everyone on our YouTube channel who are going to watch this later on. If you are not switching too much from Twitch to YouTube, just a little reminder that we have uploaded most of the family holiday role-playing streams that happened in December on this channel. So if you've missed them and if you want some good dose of Vampire the Masquerade V5 role-playing, our YouTube is a place to go. There's a lot of goodness in there, and I'm very happy that we shared so many coteries in there already. So right now I'm going to invite you to the very first chapter of today's news, and that is going to be interview. We haven't had a guest in a while, but this time we have a very special guest, and that's Alison Cybe, who was responsible for some of the writing done for Vampire the Masquerade Companion, mostly the work on mortals and coteries, but we are going to ask them about way more. I am going to join the call right now and say hello to Alison. Hello, can you hear me?
Hello, you're coming through loud and clear.
That's great. So yeah, I think we can kick it off by, I guess, one of the simplest questions that we ask most of our guests on the show, and that is, could you please introduce yourself to the audience, to our audience who might be familiar with Vampire the Masquerade Companion already, but maybe not familiar with the wider range of your work?
Oh goodness, you've started off on a really difficult one.
Really?
I'm Alison Cybe. On Vampire the Masquerade Companion. I work freelance in the roleplay industry. I've worked on several game lines, including work for Paizo. I've sold a few pieces for Chaosium, and done a little bit here and there with our friends at Onyx Path. I've just basically been rather busy over the last couple of years. Um, there's um, there's always something that I've got my eye on when writing in the business. So every now and then I'll launch into a new project. This is my first official foray into World of Darkness, although it's certainly not a setting that I'm unfamiliar with, and hopefully it'll be the first of many going forward.
I actually want to touch on that a little bit because I am very curious about your past with World of Darkness role playing, as this might be the first time that you were credited in World of Darkness book. But I am very much curious, what was your personal introduction to World of Darkness?
Oh wow! I'm of the generation who was in their mid to late teens during the height of second edition and revised on the old World of Darkness eras. I read most of the books as they came out for Vampire, for Werewolf. My main big ones back then would be Changeling, which is always one of the games that I've absolutely loved. I was quite active on the old White Wolf forums back in the day, and yeah, I've been running short games at conventions for nigh on 15 to 20 years now. I've occasionally taken part in a couple of the LARPs around the country, and I've yeah had some considerable experience dating back about oh goodness, about 25 years now.
That's amazing. Actually, you touched upon you played a little nostalgia string of mine when you mentioned changeling, and I gotta ask, do you recall your first changeling character, or which what kind of a changeling you used to play?
Oh, she was a red cat,
Ah,
um, entirely understandably, of the leather jacket and motorbike variety. Name of Diamond Tooth, because she would put diamonds into her teeth as part of the fillings.
for some reason, I'm not sure what's the deal in here, but most of the most creative people I know that were involved at some time with changeling the dreaming and role playing it or changeling the lost, they were have a very big fondness about red caps. So I need to do a little bit more research about that because that's very interesting. But coming back to Vampire the Masquerade, you are involved in Vampire the Masquerade Companion. Do you remember how this cooperation started in general, and what was your first feeling about being involved in such a project?
I got just a message out of the blue one day from Justin Keeley, asking if I would be interested in writing for it, and I genuinely didn't know where it came from, but I was floored by the offer. He'd spoken to Erica, who I've had the good fortune to work with together in the past as well, and I just snatched up the opportunity, and it was a dream come true, to be honest. Justin basically kept the entire team on point, and really led us through the straits for it. Yeah.
That's great. And let's start with an aspect of Companion that a lot of our fans were waiting for, which is the clans. You are familiar with the work that was done on it, and you've also had a chance to take a glance on the Tzimitzi Celebrating Ravenous before our general audience was able to. And I am very much curious about which clan got you the most interested. So which clan do you think you would see yourself role playing?
Well, of the three, I've always been someone who likes playing the Semitsi. If I'm completely honest, the nature of them being a very old world clan, having descended into the modern age, kind of capitulates a yeah, kind of coming to terms with the passing of age. They're a clan that, in many ways, holds true to its past while reinventing themselves, often quite physically, which is something that I found quite fascinating, and I think being a trans person myself, seeing a group who a clan who take the kind of attitude towards physicality of an almost kind of transhumanist idea that they are preternatural and somewhat more than human, beyond all of the basic boundaries that makes us human, is something that I found to be quite enchanting and somewhat inspiring, while also having a kind of dark and almost sinister undercurrent as well. I'd say the Smitsi have always been one of the clans that I liked ever since second edition, and it was lovely to see how they've been reinterpreted into the modern knights, where they're a young clan with this old past. Many of them looking to move away from, and some looking to perhaps to embrace in a whole new light. Yeah, Samitsi all the way for me, I'm afraid.
I'm very glad to hear this, especially as this mirrors what a lot of people from our community have been saying, and also a lot of trans people in our community seem to really resonate with the Tsimitsi, and to be able to give them the inspiration for the role playing materials, it's just amazing. And then, of course, we have these very powerful creatures, vampires, the ultimate predators when it comes to in comparison to humans, right? And in this whole horrible world of darkness with those predators walking among mortals, we have mortals, and I assume that writing about mortals in this world must have been a challenge. And you've done this. So, what do you think was the most challenging part of trying to write the rules about role playing humans, mortals in this dark world?
Oh, the mortals are lovely. They're the perennial underdogs in the vampire
I
stories,
love
aren't
the quote, the mortals are lovely.
I mean, they are they are everything to vampires. They are the touchstones that they use to maintain their grip on the human world. They're the vampire's fascination with the world around them. They live in the sunlight that the to which the kindred simply cannot do. That they have been banished from, and of course the mortals are their food that they prey upon. So when we approached humanity, the mortals, we wanted to consider how they could stand within a story, how you could take these beings that the vampires live with every day, every night, that they feed upon, that they lust after, that they use, and met that every vampire descended from, and how we could craft or allow the players to craft stories using human characters, mortals, as the main focus, as the propellant for these narratives, and we wanted to bring that together and give that to you.
Yeah, of course. And I of course, understand that there is a big power difference in between playing a mortal and playing a vampire
Mm.
who possesses all of these disciplines. A lot of the discipline powers in Vampire the Masquerade V5 work automatically on unsuspecting mortals. So being
Mm.
just a little fish in the water of all of these sharks around you must be intimidating. And do you have any tips for storytellers or for players who would like to incorporate playing both vampires and humans in the same chronicle, let's say, where humans are among those sharks? Do you think there's a way to make sure that the energy in that in the such chronicle would be healthy and welcoming for such players?
Mm. Well, first of all, you've got the like you just said, the idea of them swimming with sharks is that's an incredibly powerful idea, isn't it? Um, yeah, I would say consider always consider where you want the story to go. Don't necessarily focus in terms of the power disparity between the two. Mortals and vampires will never they're species which would never stand equal,
Mm-hmm.
but humanity is the underdog in these stories. They're the ones who your players can look towards and envision themselves. How has the existence of vampires impacted on these mortal lives? Does the character want to emulate these vampires? Do they feel hateful, envious? Do they are they driven to love these creatures? These because when you think about it, the humanity has a kind of terribly unhealthy love affair with vampires, don't they?
That's true. And also,
Mm.
vampires cannot exist without humans. And a chronicle
Yes,
without humans wouldn't be a vampire chronicle anymore.
exactly. Yeah. So even if your vampires look at humanity as little more than food stuff, it can be you can use this as a storyteller. You can structure a story with your players to explore the humanity within the vampire characters as well. Perhaps your mortal character wishes to become a vampire, or which is very often the way that I've seen a lot of players hoping to do, to kind of use the mortal element as a springboard to launch their vampire characters. Or perhaps your character is of a strong enough will to resist that temptation.
Because it is a
Um,
temptation, isn't it? Vampirism
oh,
is a lot of humans who would be in the company of a vampire who, for example, is able to use presence and afflict the crowds around them would be very jealous of that and would want that power, right?
mm, they very much would. And but equally, your mortal character may well say, "Well, that's fine. You can lift a truck above your head. You can move at the speed of sound. Can you do that like outside in the sun? I don't think you can."
While eating ice cream, for example. Yeah, of course. And there's one term that we've been mentioning a lot today that we haven't expanded on, and that is humanity, which has, in general, it has a meaning in the regular dictionary and when we use it in a regular conversation. But for Vampire the Masquerade players, humanity suddenly has a much of a different description. Some people think humanity and they immediately think about, I remember how in V5 core book, vampires of humanity below 4 could not even fake sexual intercourse, let's say, or the vampires below such certain humanity start to develop some inhuman features. So it's very much interpreted in the terms of monstrosity, or in and how much of the monster or how much of a non-monster you are very often. So how does that really work when it comes to humans who also have the humanity rating?
We wanted to keep and we discussed this during development, that we wanted to keep that element with humanity, um, for our mortal characters. There was some discussion that we had, and Justin was wonderful with this. He was always open to our discussions for ideas. Um, but we ultimately decided that humanity, as it applies to human characters, should be as close to vampires as possible. The main difference with humanity is that vampires can blame the lack of humanity within them on the beast. That part of them that drives the vampire to kill, to maim. Humanity doesn't. Sorry, mortals to be precise, don't have that as an excuse, and human mortal characters, when they are driven towards cruel actions, or to act vindictively, or to harm others when other options are open to them, they don't have a beast that they can point to and say, "This has driven me to that." Your mortal has to accept that kind of responsibility. So when they start losing their humanity points, it, it's very much because of choices that mortal has made, that they have given way to acting in a cruel or hurtful manner towards other people, that they consciously put themselves first, and stand against like people who may be perhaps weaker or desperate. And one of the so when I was writing the chapter on mortals, one of the examples I tried to think of when I was thinking of humans who might have low humanity would be, for instance, like a landlord who might foreclose on desperate tenants, or political, like, groups who might legislate against people for no other reasons than self hatred. Those kind of things, where you have mortals who have a choice on what they can do, but choose to harm and to embrace cruelty. We really wanted to consider that that's what humanity would mean to a human character.
This is great. I think it's a very good explanation, and it can be very well interpreted into people's chronicles and campaigns on how to create human NPCs, or how I believe that a lot of, for example, Second Inquisition leaders would be of very low humanity, despite possessing maybe the powers of true faith. But yeah, I think it's a very interesting breakdown, and humans among vampires creates very interesting synergies, but then we also have vampires among vampires and vampire relationships, which we group up sometimes in the coteries, and that was the concept which was touched upon in Vampire the Masquerade core book, but we haven't seen that expanded up until Vampire the Masquerade Companion. So could you also tell us a little bit about your mindset behind writing about the coteries?
Oh, I loved writing on the coteries. That was one of the most fun parts of contributing to the companions, because when you have a group of players around the table, you have each of them bringing a vampire, and vampires are very solitary creatures. I mean, each vampire considers itself to be the apex predator. Why would they want to work together? And you realize that they're not parties. It's not like putting together a party of adventurers. They have something that drives them to work together. So they may, for example, have an ulterior motive or an agenda. Um, they may, in fact, be a group that has been structured with a certain goal, and they will each and every coterie will have a reason for existence, which brings us to what the clans all bring, and that was what we wanted to explore in our chapter on the coteries. So when you ask, what does it mean to have a Nosferatu as part of your coterie, or a Tremere, or a Toreador? It's more than simply we need asking for the groups asking, we need an information gatherer, we need someone who can do blood magic. Um, they function together not out of utilitarian or mercantile trade, but but out of in many ways a necessity. One of the earliest ones we got was the idea that the Bruges were almost always the bikers, so they went together as a biker gang. And that's kind of always been the impression that we've got. Um, so we wanted to look at what it would mean for the Bruja to be approached from other reasons. And yeah, that very soon we were coming up with lovely ideas. One of the ones that I did was the ministry, the Setites. Why would your group trust them? And the reason that I came up with is because they're honest. They're not going to be lying to the people who they're relying on, because otherwise then no one's going to trust them. So the moment that we realize that if you have a party which involves again I say party, if you have a coterie that involves a ministry or the Toreador functioning together, you have all of these reasons that you want to bring them into the group and keep them there. Otherwise, they're simply not going to be functioning as a cohesive unit. And when you that's even more accurate when you think about the groups that are included in the companion. The Samitsi are perhaps the best example of solitary predators. After all, they're dragons sitting on top of their hordes. Why would dragons sit around a table with other dragons? Well, this is why, and we put that down on the page, and hopefully it's giving people pause to think about how you get the dynamic going with your group.
Yeah.
If you yeah if you've come away from that with ideas of how each of these vampires work together, not even as just kind of a trade, but do they but with reason to trust one another, then hopefully that's going to give you a lot of stories to discuss.
Absolutely, and I'm very glad that we've touched more on these different energies in between vampires and packs of vampires, let's say, because of course it's been always much more of a theme for Werewolf the Apocalypse, for example, where packs of werewolves are much more likely to stick with each other and not backstab each other like it would be in Vampire the Masquerade. But then again, you have a party at the table. You have a coterie of vampires that you storytell for as a storyteller, and why the hell would they want to stick together and do things for the same goal? And I think you described it wonderfully. And now a little bit of a, I guess, more difficult question, but I'm just extremely curious. Given that, let's say, the only thing you can choose from is just the clan of a vampire, which two clans would you pick to your personal coterie?
Oh, if I had to bring two in to work with the old Samitsi myself, yes.
Yes, you're Tsumitsu,
Hmm.
let's say, and then we have two more to add.
Well, we would like to have one of our coterie chaps be a Nosferatu, because I love the Nosferatu. They are people they are people that you can trust to get the job done, and they are very often overlooked. Some of the clans might turn their nose up at the Nosferatu. Can you imagine how foolish they would be to turn their nose up to the Nosferatu? If you are a dragon, a Tzimisce dragon, and you want data or from a rival corporation, or if you want an old antique from the museum, who better than to ask to help you than the Nosferatu? So I would definitely have a Nosferatu on my coterie.
What about the choice number two?
Choice number two is someone that we are going to want to give quite a bit of consideration to, and I think I would have to go for a Bruja because the Bruja are very hands-on. They are very reliable, and they're certainly not stupid. They are people that you can put your faith in, you can put your trust in, and if you are honest with a Bruja, the Bruja will completely return your faith in them.
So
Now
we.
they might. Okay.
No, sorry, continue.
Now the Bruja might have second thoughts about dealing with the dragon. I think some of them certainly might. But if they know where you're coming from and understand that you're being completely honest with them, and why would you not? Then they should be nothing but loyal companions. So my choice for number two would be a Bruja.
So we have a coterie of Tsimitsi, Bruja, and Nosferatu. I would love to hear more about their adventures because that sounds like a lovely bunch. But let's, for the very end of our interview, let's drive a little bit away from Vampire the Masquerade and from World of Darkness in general, because I would love to interest our audience in some of your other work that you have done, and especially I've been, checking your the things that you were the author of. And I am very interested in your latest book, which has a very interesting title that immediately dragged my attention. Could you tell us a little bit more about the certain zombie book?
Oh, that's quite an old one by now. That was a
Oh,
few years ago.
oh, it's an older one. I haven't read it yet, but I'm so interested. Could you tell us a little bit more about this one?
Oh, I was a gay teenage zombie. Is a young adult fantasy, comedy, horror, coming of age story, um, which I like to think is suitable for all ages, but tends to skew towards the mid to late teen audience. Looking at a young character, Jay, who is he's conflicted. He's at a point in his life where he's growing up and coming to terms with his attraction to other young men. And there's a lovely young chap at school that he's feeling just absolutely enamored for, and he just hopes the fact that he's a flesh-eating zombie doesn't get in the way.
So for all of our Hekata players in the chat, I was a teenage zombie is certainly a position for you to check out. And Alison, could you tell us now how we can find you online to check out more of your work?
Absolutely. The best way will probably be via my Twitter handle. You can check me out, which is Cyberwolf. And you can have a look on my website, which is imaginatively titled cybeswebsite.com. It's very imaginative.
It is very imaginative. No, it's thankfully very easy to find you online and to get to know more of your work, which is super interesting. And I cannot wait to hear more about your works in the future. And in the meantime, thank you so much for this interview. Your insights were fantastic, and I really hope that they will help our community to, in their role playing, in the inspiration for their chronicles, and in interpreting Vampire the Masquerade Companion. Thank you so much for joining us.
And thank you very much for inviting me, and have a lovely evening.
Have a lovely evening. Goodbye. So, my dear audience, that was Alison Cybe, and I am extremely happy that we have them today on the show. I really love their insights into both mortals and coteries in the clans, and I really hope they will be useful to you. And in the meantime, we're going to kick off the video game part of the new show because damn, there's been a lot of things going on in the past 2 weeks. And we have a lot of nice little videos to show you today. We're going to start with the first one, which is connected to Wraith, the Oblivion Afterlife, that have introduced the shadow in their newest video that was published originally on the Oculus blog. And what exactly is a shadow? I'm going to tell you a little bit more after the video. Check it out.
Come find me. Hello, Ed. What's the matter? Don't you recognize yourself? You feel it too, don't you? Like you're split right down the center. You're different now. Your senses are more refined, sharper. You can see and hear everything if you want it bad enough. You know how the song goes, right? Ed is dead. Welcome to the afterlife.
Well, that looks like a very lovely game for a nice little evening spent with VR, isn't it? I've heard from some people, I haven't been able to play Afterlife yet myself because I do not have a VR set yet, but I've heard from some people who are already able to play the early development game in progress that they were shared by Festival Games, that it's apparently extremely creepy. And that comes from people who were playing other horror games in the past, so not from the newbies. And Shadow, I think, is going to be a big part of that. So, I've been explaining a little bit about the Shadow in the past World of Darkness news shows, but to make it easy for Vampire the Masquerade audience, if you've played Vampire the Masquerade, if you know the general rules, you could technically, I know I'm going to be probably beheaded for this comparison, but you could technically compare Shadow to the Beast. The thing is, the Beast tries to drag you down. If you're going to let yourself to the Beast and commit all of those horrible acts that the Beast is trying to instill in your head as a vampire, you're going to go down this path of humanity very quick. And there's no stopping for the Beast. There's nothing that is making the Beast stop you from becoming one with it. While the Shadow, it's this kind of a entity which visualizes itself after you die and become a wraith. During the life, you might have had these thoughts, some menacing thoughts sometimes, some weird evil seeds that were in your brain, maybe not fully consciously, maybe you were laughing these thoughts out, but then you die and suddenly they become this very much real form that has its own voice, has its own personality, and is following you everywhere. The difference in between the Shadow and the Beast is that the Shadow enjoys the path of dragging you down, and it's not going to be a very quick path down. It's not going to push you towards oblivion very quickly like a Beast would push you towards becoming a Humanity Zero vampire. No, the Shadow is going to enjoy slowly pushing you that way while basically prolonging your suffering. But it also can be useful, and that's the issue. And in Wraith, the Oblivion Afterlife, this concept is going to be developed much further in the story, because Shadow is going to be your narrator that is going to give you advices on where to go, what to do, and sometimes these advices are going to push you in the right direction, but you will never really know whether to listen to it or not, because it can lead you the wrong way as well. I think it's a super interesting concept, and in the role-playing campaigns, you can play it when you read the old Wraith the Oblivion books. You can play it that the different person plays a Wraith and their Shadow. So you have two people who are playing originally the same person, but there's a Shadow form and there's a Wraith form. And here, Shadow is definitely the separate entity in your head, which represents your dark dark side, let's say, and can be very helpful, but can be also leading you to the worst possible path. And I cannot wait for the shadow to tell me something, to go somewhere or do something in the game that is going to make me face the specter and face the enemy in the most gruesome or scary form. I am very much interested in that chemistry in between the shadow and the protagonist. So if you want to read more about that, check out Fast Travel Games on social media. They have a specific Twitter account and Facebook account for Wraith, the Oblivion Afterlife. And also they have recently opened their own Discord server. If you go to twitter.com/World of Darkness, we have tweeted the link to it recently, so you can find it there. And if you have any questions about this game whatsoever, you can ask them straight to the developers through that Discord. They also have a new community manager on board, Francesca. She's amazing and she's been super helpful both for the community and for myself. So thank you so much, Francesca, for sharing all the information that I can pass forward to you guys and that we can share. So, oh no, Fast Travel Games has been, let me just permit Fast Travel Games on Twitch very quickly so they can share the links to the Discord. There we go. You can post the links right now. I'm going to, of course, put them down below on the YouTube, in the YouTube description as well. So that's the news about Wraith coming spring 2021. I cannot wait to lay my hands on it and tell you how scared in a scale of 10 to 20 I was playing this one. And let's get on to another game, this time not the video game, but the card game. We have some news from Renegade, the developers of Vampire the Masquerade Rivals. They have done the voting among their community when it comes to the new introduced clan to Vampire the Masquerade Rivals, and the next expansion is going to introduce clan La Sombra. I've been playing Rivals myself aplenty. I've played so far as Torraider and Bruja. I haven't played yet as Ventru nor Malkavian, which are also available in the basic set, but my experience with it was very much connected to my role-playing experience. I feel like playing in a much more, of course, fast-paced card game against other players, as VTM Rivals is, you still have very much familiar themes that you can take from role-playing Vampire the Masquerade. So I felt very much like a clan I was playing. So I really hope that La Sombra is going to continue this tradition, and with La Sombra deck will be able to be ruthless and use Oblivion powers. That's what I want. If you want to know more about La Sombra in Vampire the Masquerade Rivals and the development process, the design, and everything they are doing, I welcome you to Renegade Game Studios Twitch channel, on which they have Vampire Wednesdays. Every Wednesday they are doing a specific show which is about Vampire the Masquerade, mostly about Vampire the Masquerade Rivals. So you can check them out on their Twitch channel. Just check out Renegade Studios Twitch. Just type it in the search and you will find it, and I will put the link down below in the description of the YouTube video for this one. And now, 7 days left. That's amazing. Werewolf the Apocalypse Earthblood is releasing in just a week, which, it feels like the time has passed super quickly. And we are having this game just coming into our hands very, very soon. And we also had new video reveals, which were showing, again, more gameplay, more little tidbits from the Cyanide Studio, the developer behind the game. And I would love to show some of that to you today. Starting with the very second development diary. Their developer diaries are just so high quality in production that I just want to have them for every single game I'm waiting for. But yeah, let's check out the second one of the dev diaries for Earthblood.
Peggy 16.
Les formes Homid et Lupus.
The Homid and Lupus forms are more tactical forms. Homid form is the social and environment interaction form, while Lupus form is much more for exploration and infiltration. In agile stance, the Krynos can attack rapidly and jump from one side of the field of battle to the other. In heavy stance, the Krynos is much slower but can hit much harder. To really highlight the power and brutality of the Krynos in combat, we constantly went back and forth between animation and game design. This helped to find the right balance between realism and responsiveness, so players could feel in control of their movements and to achieve an effective fighting system. Rage is central to the gameplay. It's an important resource that allows the Krynos to heal and unlock special attacks.
My biggest challenge on Earthblood was to help players understand that the resource they collect during exploration is the same resource used during combat, rage.
Working in animation, what I really loved about this project was the diversity of the bestiary. There are so many creatures of all sorts of shapes and sizes, and for an animator, that's a goldmine.
For
the level design, we wanted to give players the chance to choose their own experience. In other words, every situation is a puzzle with different solutions. You can choose infiltration or dive straight into combat, but whatever happens, fighting is always a valid option. Through the level design, I wanted players to understand the importance of preparation. For example, when players are infiltrating or trying to infiltrate but fail, it can mean combat is more difficult than it would have been if they had managed to deactivate a turret or eliminate a powerful enemy beforehand. You can see the spirit world in Werewolf using penumbra vision, which we use in the level design for guidance so players can get their bearings and progress through the levels as easily as possible.
For the art direction, the goal was to create a dystopian world by incorporating dark and mature elements.
To portray the werewolf's Krynos form, we wanted to create a beast that oozes rage. Basically, we wanted to move away from the somewhat romantic image you'd find in teen movies. This is the world of darkness, a world that's dark, violent, and mature. For the music, we chose heavy metal, especially for the combat, because we wanted to make the rage and visceral aspects really stand out. We got the chance to work with the New Zealand group Alien Weaponry, who make quite tribal heavy metal. In each fight, the combined violence of the Krynos and heavy metal fully capture the game's DNA.
I have to admit, it took me all the time up until this development diary to actually realize that Alien Weaponry were involved in the process of development of Werewolf the Apocalypse Earthblood. I knew that their song was featured in one of the previous trailers, because that's how I get to know the band. I didn't know about them before. I learned about them from this previous trailer. I was completely hooked on their music ever since. And then from this dev diary, we've learned that Alien Weaponry is actually involved, and this makes me so happy. So yeah, there's a lot of heavy metal in Earthblood, which fits perfectly, because ultimately when you are letting the steam off, as the developer very often said in the game, and just destroying everyone who tries to stand in the way of Gaia, I think that heavy metal is a very good music to have in the background of that. So there's a lot of questions in the chat regarding the release and distribution of Werewolf the Apocalypse Earthblood. The game is going to be initially available on consoles as well as on Epic, but that's a timed exclusive. So how it usually works with Epic Store is that to grow the store, they are funding parts of the development of the games, and by the same time they're just signing, can we have this exclusive for some time? Because we want to have more users on the store. So we can pay for some of the development, and then you can release the game on the other platforms as well. So that's what happened with plenty of games, including Earthblood, and Earthblood is going to be available on Steam, and I believe GOG as well in the future, but it's basically a timed exclusive. So if you are wanting to wishlist it on Steam, you won't be able to do it right now, but in the future the game is also going to be available on Steam. So yeah, that's one of the is this an adventure game or like Heart of the Forest? No, Heart of the Forest is very much story-driven Werewolf of the Apocalypse experience, while Werewolf of the Apocalypse Earthblood is an action RPG. There's a lot of action in there, a lot of fighting, bosses, and crowds of Endron employees. So when you're aiming for playing Earthblood, you can absolutely expect having a lot of this 3D. Very dynamic action in the Endron facility with a lot of the big variety of enemies, while Heart of the Forest is of course a 2D experience, which is way more story focused, choose your own adventure kind of a game. So we have very much two faces of werewolf in there. I often say that werewolves were often this in role playing as a role playing system. They have this duality. Werewolf of the Apocalypse is about rage, and it's also about spirituality. So for me, having these two games as the first games out for Werewolf of the Apocalypse, it's kind of funny because you have this spiritual side in Heart of the Forest and this rage side in Earthblood, and that's going to hopefully satisfy a lot of the a lot of the Werewolf of the Apocalypse fans who are looking to let some of that rage out and destroy the servants of the Wyrm and Pentex. So Action Metal and Garou, I think that's a very good sum up. And when it comes to comparisons to other video games, I've been discussing this with the developer in the previous interview we had on World of Darkness News. If you want to have some comparisons, some people are already comparing this game from the gameplay to Prototype. Prototype was one of the inspirations for developers, but also Darksiders and a bit of Devil May Cry. So if you are familiar with the fighting in these games and how the action looked like, you may expect that Earthblood is going to be quite in the same fashion, but I feel like one of the very good ways to tell you a little bit more about the gameplay is the exclusive video that was released by Earthblood developers through IGN about the way more of a gameplay aspect of this game, which is the different forms that you can take as Cahal and how these forms affect the gameplay. So this will be the last video for today, but I'm going to be back with you right after. If you have any more questions, please drop them in the chat right now, and I will try to answer all I can. And in the meantime, IGN Earthblood video. And we're back after the Freeforms teaser. So this is exactly what the gameplay is going to be like walking around. So you're going to have your human form in which you'll be able to talk. Some of the conversations also have choices in the dialogue. So if you are looking for choices in the game, there are going to be possibilities for Kyle to say different things to different characters. I wouldn't expect very much of a huge branching story as Heart of the Forest is. This is way more of an action-driven experience. And in the action itself, you can choose in between being very stealthy in the lupus form and and being very much fighty in the Krynos form, or also fight as Kahal, who can use a crossbow and has some additional abilities. You can also, of course, use technology as Kahal, because it would be a little bit difficult to use keyboards and touchpads with your werewolf paws. You know, footsies, you know what I mean. So that's also why it's very useful to have a human form. And in Krynos, you can expect different stances. So you have the heavy stance and the light stance, which are much different when it comes to how exactly you're going to utilize them to destroy people around you. And switching in between them is going to be crucial for you to go through the game unscratched, unscathed. You know what I mean. So, is there a consequence to killing a lot of people? I can't talk much about the ending part of the game. I'm going to leave that to the spoilers after the game is going to be out. But the game is very much made in order to let you let off the steam. You are, of course, going to observe the carnage that you're going to make as you walk through Endron and through the facility. So, Werewolf of the Apocalypse is very much of the game of you rage, and after you rage, you see the consequences of your actions. So if this is the feeling that you're looking for, you can expect some of that in Werewolf of the Apocalypse Earthblood for sure. I think it was shown in one of these videos very well when, you know, after you went into Krynos form, you destroyed all those humans around. There was just blood everywhere. And you could see how much harm you exactly caused. For a good cause, of course. But this feeling is going to be present in Werewolf of the Apocalypse Earthblood, but whether it's going to affect anything, you will have to wait for the game itself. But after you rage, more rage. Kinda, yes, it's a good sum up. After you rage even more because you raged too much, and then you just need to rage even more. And yeah, I think it's a very good sum up of being a werewolf. So yeah, guys, this game releases in 7 days. I am very much looking forward to what you will think about it and how you will enjoy it. And yeah, let me know through the Discord, through social media, and everywhere you will be about Werewolf of the Apocalypse Earthblood. And I will be here in a week to give you more World of Darkness news. In the meantime, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. We are clocking a full hour almost, so that's been a long one, but it's been a pleasure to be back here with you guys to give you more of this news. And I hope you'll enjoy these games. See you later. Goodbye.